Welcome to the Better Business Podcast. I'm your host, Austin Zelan. Join me week after week as I interview high-level entrepreneurs on their journey to success, both in business and personal development. Each week presents new stories to learn from and new ideas on how to run a better business. Stay updated with all the guests we'll have by subscribing to this podcast. Welcome to another episode of Better Business with Austin Zelan. I'm super excited to have our guest, Matt Krom, here. He's built an amazing business, and I'm here to ask him some questions that are going to help you take some of his best practices and apply it into your business. So thank you so much for joining us, Matt. I'm very excited to interview you today. Can you tell our audience a little bit about your business and how you started your entrepreneurial journey?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me here today. You know, my journey started when I was actually a teenager. My dad started having me run with him on some job sites as a contractor, and
Okay.
I didn't realize where it was taking me at that time. Just going out and helping him carry materials around on a job site, lugging around ladders and tools and
So was that like construction?
construction. Yeah. So
Okay.
home improvement business is what we're doing. We are in the home remodel space. And so it's just interesting to think back to kind of where the roots are, where this thing started at. But yeah, so 25 years later, I've been doing this since I was a teenager. And, I've gone through all different aspects of the business, ranging from the installation practices, got into sales for a little while, ended up really thriving in sales. That's where I actually ended up getting into the business side of things and
Okay.
kind of transferred away from swinging a hammer and beating up my body, if you will.
Yeah.
And from there, I ended up in some director roles with a very large company. And so it's interesting to think back where it all started from, but it really goes all the way back to when I was a teenager. And my business itself is, we started our company, RROC Exteriors, in 2021, and since inception, from a startup company, we've generated roughly $16 million in revenue in our
Wow.
in our first 2.5-3 years.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's super exciting. The best part about it for me is seeing the opportunity that it creates for people, and watching people, improve their lives and, expand their knowledge in the business and things along those lines. So, but what really separates us from everybody else out there, and one of the things that makes us really special is the vision of the company. People that come and join us are just really excited to be a part of what we have going on.
Yeah.
And so I definitely look forward to talking a little bit more about that with you.
Definitely. Yeah. I do want to dive a little bit deeper on that in just a little bit. But you mentioned something about providing opportunities for other people. So
Mhm.
people generally have different reasons for wanting to be an entrepreneur. Some people want to make more money. Some people want to have time freedom. Some people just want to have, a big team that they're working on projects with. And everybody has a different motivation. So what's your favorite part about being an entrepreneur? Is it just having more money than working a 9 to 5, or is it creating that opportunity for people, or maybe a combination of things?
Yeah, it's definitely a combination of things. And surprisingly, maybe not surprisingly, but money's not really a big motivator for me. For me, really, the biggest thing is creating the opportunity and watching things grow. I love watching things grow. And for me, maybe not everybody's this way, but I like a little bit of chaos in there. If it's not chaotic, I know I know I'm not pushing things to the limits, and
Oh man.
and so a little chaos goes a long ways for me with what we do. But yeah, I definitely enjoy the process of it. One of the things that I did notice when I first started my business was that there's there's a lot of times you'll get caught up in the technician roles, thinking back to your roots of what you're doing, what you used to do. Because a lot of times people start businesses and they did that because they used to install a product, or they used to, if it was like a construction or a trade, they were the hands-on installation guys. So they think, well, let's go start a business because I know the business, I know how to install that. And so the entrepreneurial part of this is where things get a little bit challenging because your natural instincts are to stay within that technician role.
Hmm.
And so that's where a lot of the challenges came from for me in the beginning. But it's been a real pleasure going along the journey and learning from that, and and really starting to enjoy the aspects of being an entrepreneur, not just a technician.
Yeah, so you enjoy being an entrepreneur more than being a technician.
Absolutely, yeah. Being a technician is, it's great if you're in a trade and you make a good living and
Yeah.
you're good at what you do. But not everybody's wired to stay in those roles for long term or for their entire life. So, and another thing I realized too is I don't think that entrepreneurship is out of anybody's reach. I think that anybody can do it.
Hmm.
I truly do. I truly
Yeah.
do believe that.
Awesome. Cool. So as an entrepreneur, you've kind of transitioned out of that technician role. You're now taking on this responsibility of running a business. Did you continue your education in some way, or do you think you learned a lot of the things as a technician that you're applying now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely have never stopped learning. You know, the technician phase of my career was a big part of me learning work ethic, right? So learning the grind and getting out there and putting in the effort and being comfortable with sacrificing time and effort, energy, and all that kind of stuff into hard work. But in terms of the entrepreneurship part of this and the growth part of it, yeah, you can't stop learning. You have to always be in it. So I definitely have a good list of books and things along those lines that I not only read but I study, and actually also we implement these within our company as well. I'm a big fan of the Maxwell leadership and teamwork books. So
Yeah.
um, I believe that any business person that is building a team should definitely follow those laws.
Yeah, definitely. And I think leadership plays such an integral role in building a team and making sure that your company is going towards that vision that you've set forth for your company. But I would say environment also plays a huge role for us as leaders. So when we're surrounding ourselves with people that we want to be like or we want to learn from, how have you done that in your business? How have you found these people that you want to create that environment with?
That's a really good question, actually, and the answer to that's very complicated. Actually, you know, through my 10 years of experience outside of the technician role and being in sales and the directorial roles of a in this business, I created a lot of relationships with people, and that ranges from people that are on my team now that are part of RROC Exteriors, all the way down to even the manufacturer level. I have a lot of partnerships with big manufacturers and vendors that most most uh, most small companies don't have access to. They just don't have connections to get in there. So you got to be those big giant conglomerates to have those relationships. But for me, the the process of bringing on the key people in my company was years and years in the making,
Yeah.
right? So we do have roles that still need to be filled in the company that are going to be outside of that, and that's the fun part of this, right? That's where things get uncomfortable because I don't know those people yet. I don't know where they're going to come from yet.
Hmm.
But the first 3 years of growth of our company was mostly done by people that I've built relationships with through the process over the years. And when they found out what we were doing over here at Rock Exteriors, they saw the vision of the company. They really bought into what we were doing. Some of the individuals that are with us left some very high paying roles with other large companies to come and be a part of this. So, and that all comes from vision and and solid ground with people that you've worked with in the past.
Yeah, definitely. And so as far as like mentors and people that you look up to, how have you found those people in your life? Is it just people that you found online or maybe like masterminds or things like that?
You know, it's interesting. I feel like one book leads to another.
Mhm.
Maxwell books. I learned a lot from those, and then I ended up. One of my other favorite books is the E Myth. It's a great book, absolutely a great book. If you want to start a company and you're wanting to be an entrepreneur, you got to read that book. Have you ever read that book?
I'm not,
You
no.
never read the E Myth?
No.
That's a good one. You got to read that one. But yeah, so I find that a lot of my mentors over the years have been people that I've worked with side by side. But also a lot of them come from literally going from one book to another book to another book. Something in that book reminds me of something that takes me down another course into another book.
Yeah.
I'm not a big reader, outside of work, I do like to listen to books too. So I do a lot of audio books, but I spend a lot of time in those.
Yeah, definitely. Now, as entrepreneurs, I think there's always like a goal or a target we have in mind that we want to achieve, whether it's revenue wise or size of our company. And one common thing that comes up in a lot of these interviews is that you have to grow in order to achieve your full potential. Now, would you say that you can basically teach yourself how to get to that next level, or do you have to find people who can kind of coach and guide you along the way to become a bigger person or a better person that can then create that larger company or grow their organization?
Another really good question. There's no such thing as a lone wolf. I don't believe that any one person can do anything of greatness. And so myself and I believe many other people too, you can only get so far without adding those key people into your inner circle. So, and I protect the inner circle of people that I have I hold it very close. So, um, but yeah, the most important part of what we do and the most important thing for us to grow and sustain growth is to have people that are there to support and learn from and apply pressure to, mostly them to apply pressure to me too. That's another thing I love to do is I want my people to know that I serve them and I work for them. And so I'm open with them like, hey, if you need something from me, if you need more, push me, get me involved. What do you need? Um, and I think that that's another big part of what's helped us grow so fast as well.
Awesome, awesome. So let's get to a little bit more of the technical side of business. So when you're analyzing your business, you probably have, monthly or quarterly reviews where you're just looking at your company and like, okay, I have all these departments. This is how they're performing. This one is doing well. This one is doing even better. And how do you analyze your business in order to find the most, I'd say, profitable or the most opportune improvement areas? So if you see an area of your business and you want to improve it, how do you identify which one is the one you should focus on first?
Yeah, I mean, you got to have KPIs to track. You can't adjust or fix anything that you don't track. And so, we call that the scoreboard. Um,
So you have the scoreboard in your
we
company.
we definitely we have multiple scoreboards. As a home improvement company, we have a marketing scoreboard, we have a sales scoreboard, we have an installation and projection scoreboard in terms of collecting revenue. So in our line of work, revenue is weird. Like sales guys think they create revenue, which they do. Don't get me wrong; they're the biggest driver of revenue. But if you can't install it and make your customer happy and collect on it, doesn't really matter.
Hmm.
And so we have all those different KPIs that we track, and we do utilize a scoreboard on it. So, and in my line of work, I found that especially with sales and marketing, the two of them combined, there's this pendulum where you've got to try to keep you've got to try to keep it somewhere in the middle. Marketing will outperform sales, and then sales will outperform marketing. And if you don't keep that thing kind of dialed in, I find that you're either spending too much money on marketing and creating more opportunity than you can cover, or you've got too much sales opportunity and not enough, and sales people, but not enough opportunity for the people. So that's one of the challenges that we have for sure.
Definitely. And how would you say is the best way to do that, to keep that pendulum right in the middle between sales and marketing? Because I know a lot of people struggle with that. A lot of times it's not enough marketing and their salespeople don't have enough opportunities to take advantage of. But sometimes it's just too much marketing and they have so many leads coming in that their salespeople literally can't handle all those leads and all those phone calls and emails and the follow up. So, how do you keep that in the middle? Is there like a system you use or maybe like a formula of like, one marketing person for every 10 salespeople or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, so that's a great question. And there's multiple answers to that question. The funny part of it is learning from that is literally and tracking it is like painful things like, oh my gosh, how did that lead source cost me $20,000 and only generate $40,000 in revenue when we have a cost of goods of 60%? You're losing money on that. And so as a young company, I can't count how many times I've been caught off guard because I wasn't watching a KPI close enough, right? And 2-3 weeks goes by, and you realize that your marketing cost is so out of whack on one of my lead sources that, you know, you're thankful that you caught it, but at the same time, you're like, oh my gosh, this could have been catastrophic. Like, what the heck is going on here? So, you know, in my business, my marketing costs should never go above 15%. And so that's one of the things that we keep track of on that. But the other thing that we do to keep track of it is we pull reports daily, weekly. So on the sales side, we pull sales reports. We make sure that we've got enough salespeople to run the leads. In our industry is generally, depending on what type of marketing it is, because we have inbound marketing for like people coming to our website. We have telemarketing. We also have canvas teams, so people that go door to door and solicit for us. And so I found that in my industry and with my company, one telemarketer can typically support two sales reps.
Okay.
And that's a cold call telemarketer. So they've got to be dialing like 500 phone calls a day, right? These guys are crazy, by the way. I don't know how they do it. Yeah, it's the vision, right? They do it because they believe. Door knockers, our canvassing guys, generally one canvasser can support one sales rep. It's my favorite part of the business, by the way, is that because that's where you can get super good chemistry. You get this team of field marketing agents, and your salespeople are so bought into what they're doing because they're the ones that bring them the leads, and they absolutely love the relationship they have with them. And so you can basically you bolt on one canvasser and then one more sales rep, so you can grow systematically with that. So for anybody that's wanting to get into that type of marketing and sales, it's the easiest and least complicated way to do it because there's less data to track, so to say. You just got to have people that can go out and produce.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So basically one canvasser and then one installation or one salesperson.
One salesperson. Yep. So
Gotcha.
yeah. So in my industry, typically one salesperson can run 2 appointments a day.
Okay.
And a typical appointment's 1.5 to 2 hours. Then they got their drive time, and then they're supposed to be following up.
Yeah.
You know how salespeople are. So one field agent, one marketing guy that's out knocking doors should typically be able to set 2 to 3 appointments a day.
Okay.
We have about a 75% retention on our field appointments. 25% of those guys, they get to thinking afterwards, hey man, I don't know, these guys just knocked on my door. I'm not interested in this. And my marketing team in house, the phone center, they're pretty good at keeping them on the hook. But that is another one of the KPIs we track too, by the way, is what percentage of appointments are going all the way through from set to confirm to issue and then actually demoed as well.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, now you got me to thinking. So if you have a 1-to-1 ratio as far as like one canvasser to one salesperson, but on the phone side of things, you have one phone salesperson, one cold caller to two salespeople, wouldn't that technically generate more business?
Yes. The phone room's a little bit more challenging. And this is where you asked me earlier, like, how do you grow? Where do you find your people?
Yeah.
And this is actually one of our biggest places that we have, that we have room for improvement right now is we're looking for a really high level marketing person that can come in a directorial type of a role. In our first 2-3 years, you're not really ready for that type of a position yet, but we're at that point now. So, but yeah, if you've got the call list and you've got the data to call, you've got resources and you've got the capability to track it and keep your foot on it, then the more call center agents, the better.
Yeah.
But it's really dangerous when you can't track it, when you don't have somebody that's 100%, like that's their whole thing is to keep an eye on it and make sure that it's producing, make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do every minute of every single day. That's this is where you get yourself in trouble. I mean, you let 2 weeks slip by, and then all of a sudden you look at your KPIs and you realize if I don't fix that, that's not going to be good. So
Yeah.
so that's actually where we're at right now. Is we're actually looking for a director type role for our marketing department. So
Gotcha. Cool. Now, have you implemented any sort of artificial intelligence into your company to help you track some of these things? I know there's a lot of really cool tracking tools that can help with some of that, but have you had any experience with that?
not yet. We use it a little bit for creating scripts. We use it a
Okay.
little bit for simplifying administrative work. But I don't know enough about it yet. I am highly, highly interested in it. I do believe that that's one of our biggest areas of opportunity right now.
Hmm. Yeah, some of the companies that I consult with, that's actually one of the first things that we do is we find these little gaps in their business where we can add AI and either make them more efficient or more cost effective or even produce more. Like you said, like script testing. There's a pretty cool tool we use for that. But I think there's a huge opportunity with AI in the future of business. And I truly believe that a lot of the companies that are not implementing AI could potentially go out of business if they don't start implementing it.
I do see that coming. I do believe that as the industry and the world changes and evolves, I don't think that you're going to be able to stay relevant without it. So rest assured, I will be picking your brain on some AI stuff.
Definitely, definitely. Cool. So, have you ever used consultants to help you grow your company? I know there's a lot of consulting firms out there and they all do kind of their own specialty, but have you ever hired a consulting firm to help you grow?
I have. I've worked with one, a very large, well known one. I did use Cardone Ventures. Learned a lot from those guys. Um, Ultimately, I did come to the conclusion that most of the things that they were teaching me were things that I've already learned through my 15 years, 10 to 15 years in the directorial roles that with a large home improvement company before. So the juice wasn't worth the squeeze anymore for me on that with what they were teaching me. So um, there's a lot of great stuff in there though for people that don't know those types of things with the business in terms of how to platform a company, how to build it to scale it, how to plan for an exit, all those types of things. There's a lot of good stuff in there. But outside of Cardone Ventures, I haven't used any other outside consulting firms for anything. So
When would you say is the right time for a company to hire a consulting firm to help them grow?
that's a really difficult question to answer. Be careful with it, first of all, because if you're not ready for it, the cost of it, and then the funny thing about it is the actual cost of it isn't the dangerous part of hiring a consulting firm. It's the implementation portion of it. So if you're not ready for it and you don't have all hands on deck and the ability to literally basically double down what you're doing in terms of time, effort, it becomes overwhelming, and then not only are you wasting your money on it, but it also becomes a drain in other areas of your business. So yeah, you want to make sure that you're ready for it. You need to make sure that you have key leaders in your company that are learning, because the last thing you want to do is spend all that money and go through a consulting firm and have them teach just you, and then you go out and hire four new people that are going to help you grow this thing. And then now you're like, well, shoot, now I got to teach these people all this stuff. And it just doesn't translate the same. So, not to mention the amount of time and effort that goes into it. So, I do believe that the right time to do that is when you have your initial core leadership group within the company built, and you need to have solid ground with them. You need to know they're not going anywhere. You need to know that they're bought in, and that they're not just here for a short period of time, that they're in this thing for the long run.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with you because, consulting firms, from my experience, can provide a ton of value. And if you don't have that team in place to help you implement it and actually improve your company, then you're like, wow, I have all this information, but I can't do it on my own. So having those key leaders in on that consulting process, I think, is very, very important. And you mentioned something interesting about employees staying long term. So earlier, you talked about vision and the vision that you've set for your company. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that looks like? Like, how did you come up with the vision for your company? How did you get people to buy in on that?
That's a good question. For me, vision's everything. I believe as a CEO or an entrepreneur, you call the role president, CEO, owner, whatever you want to call it. If you can't create vision that calls people to action, that makes people excited to wake up in the morning and get out there and serve the business and serve the people in the business and serve the customers. If you can't create that, I don't think that you have a business. Um, the name of our company, RROC Rock Exteriors, is actually an acronym. And this came from my dad. He raised me in home improvement. He raised me. I mean, he had me out cleaning up his job sites when I was 13 years old, on weekends and summer. And RROC stands for results regardless of circumstances, right? So one of my funniest moments I can think back to when I was a little kid, I was like maybe 13, 14 years old. My dad had sent me to the truck to grab a tool for him. And the truck also had a trailer on it. That's a disposal, right? So that's a garbage disposal is on the trailer. And I walked to the truck, grabbed a tool, and came back to my dad with the tool. And my dad lit me up. What in the hell was that all about, Matt? Don't you ever do that again. I said, I went and got your tool. What are you talking about? He says, you walked right by 4 or 5 different pieces of trash on your way to the truck and didn't pick them up and carry them there while you're already going that direction. And that was the beginning of him teaching me results regardless of circumstances.
Wow.
So, but yeah, so the name of the company has a lot to do with the vision of the company. And when people, really get excited about it, you can build a lot of momentum with that, and it becomes part of the culture, when you got people that are having a down day or a bad customer or an upset customer, you get to remind them, hey, this is where we strive. This is what we're good at. We're, no matter what the circumstances are, we pull through every time. And so the vision of that, where the company's going, what's the long haul has to be a part of this thing. And I do believe in terms of keeping people, especially key people, you've got to build your company with room for these people to be a part of it. They can't just be employees forever. If these are key people that are helping you build your company, they need to have something. They need to have something that keeps them around and gives them, purpose to make the sacrifices that are necessary to be great at what they do and to serve your company. And so I think that equity is a big part of that as well. You don't just give people equity; they got to earn this stuff, right? And it takes time, but that's a big part of creating that vision and buy-in with these people, and keeps them around. It's a really big part of it.
Awesome. So how do you decide which employees that you're going to give equity to, and how do you measure what equity they should be given?
That's a great question. For me, one of the first and foremost things that I've made clear to anybody I bring on with my company is if you bring something new to my company that generates revenue that I wouldn't have otherwise had and I would have never thought of, that's the quickest way to get me to be happy to give you equity. Like you bring in a new product that I don't know anything about because I've only learned so many products through my lives. And you bring this thing on, you onboard the vendors, you onboard the contractors, you onboard all this, everything that's required to pull that new product off. That's like a shoe in for me. Like that's an easy no brainer. Outside of that, I think it's longevity. I think it's people that you can count on. Like you can count on them like as if they're your like they're your father. They're there for you, and so that's another big part of it as well. KPIs are going to be a big part of that as well. Just because employees are great people, they show up on time all the time. They have a smile on their face. Everybody enjoys being around them. That doesn't mean that they're worthy of having equity in your company. They need to be able to produce. They need to be able to replicate. One of the biggest things for me with that too, is replication is a huge thing. So the more dispensable you make yourself, the more valuable you are to the company. So if you make it to where I can remove you because you put other people in that function as highly as you do or better, that's where your value comes in. That's somebody that should be getting equity in the company.
Yeah, so being able to duplicate yourself, assuming you're performing at a high level, because you don't want people duplicating themselves at a lower performance.
I mean, yeah, I mean, we've all
Yeah,
we've all been around those employees everybody loves to have, right? I mean,
yeah,
I've got one of them. I'm not going to bring up the guy's name. He's a great guy. Everybody loves him, but he's not a real big producer. He just keeps the spirits and everything high. So
yeah.
he's still a big part of the team. And he's got a lot of
Culture.
value, but I don't know, maybe at some point he will find where his niche is and really takes off. He's got the attitude and the personality for it, but just being happy and being there doesn't necessarily get you where, get you where you want to be. You got to go above and beyond.
Yeah, definitely. So do you have a specific target revenue wise for each employee, or is it just kind of, based on their role, they should be producing X amount, or Is there a general one or a more specific one?
Yeah. So, and that's a good question. In our business, we have revenue generating roles, we have operations roles. And I know all businesses do, but um, that's a difficult one to track in terms of revenue targets. I do try to keep my revenue as a company at $500,000 per employee per year is my target. So if I've got 10 employees, should be doing 10 times 500,000.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Cool. So if somebody's watching this and they want to grow their business or run a better business, where would you say is the first place they should look?
I think they should read the E-Myth book, just like you should.
Cool. And so what's the name of that book again?
It's called the E-Myth. It's spelled EMYTH.
Okay, cool. And the
And
author?
yeah, so it's Michael Gerber.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so guys, check out this book. It's probably going to help you run a better business, but besides the book, what's like a tactical strategy that you've used to improve your business?
Tactical strategy. So I was waking up early, staying up late, working hard. Um, there's a lot of them actually. I mean, I'm a huge vision guy. I'm huge on just keeping people in the game,
Yeah.
making sure that people are um they're put on a pedestal when they need to be put on a pedestal. For me, it's a big part of what we do is making people excited to overproduce.
Mhm.
So that's one of my biggest strengths, I would say. In terms of actual tactical things, though, I would definitely say, keeping track of the KPIs, and then when something isn't performing the way you want it to perform, just doing data analyzing, digging into it, and then coming up with a game plan, a plan of action where you can actually get in there and create, whether it needs to be training or adjustments on marketing or how things are actually being implemented, or if you need to delete things or add things, depending on what part of the company it is.
And what have you found to be the most effective way to encourage people to overproduce? Is it just like a monetary goal where you give them a bonus, or is it a recognition? What have you found to be the most effective?
You know, bonuses are great, right? People love bonuses. I don't know that bonuses get people to really want to overproduce though. Yeah, I think that the right kind of salespeople are driven by a combination of bonuses and recognition. If they're only driven by bonuses, they're not competitive enough for me. That doesn't do it for me. I like people that are competitive that want to. I've got one of our bonuses. In fact, it's a fun bonus. We have a lot of fun with it. But it started at a flat dollar amount of revenue generated in a month, in a single month, and it's the highest tier bonus that any employee in the company can get. It's a 3% bonus for the revenue they generate for the month. Anytime that benchmark is hit, the bonus moves to that dollar amount plus $1. People aren't really driven. They don't really think about the 3%. They think about the fact that I took that guy's trophy. Now I got the trophy, and then the next person wants to come and get it. So it's a lot of
Mm,
fun.
awesome, awesome. Well, cool, man. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and the things that you've learned in your entrepreneurial journey. Is there anything else you want to leave our audience with before we wrap up here?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I think anybody can be an entrepreneur. I think that anybody can do it, and the most important thing is to get excited about it. And don't forget that there's a lot more to this than just knowing what the product is, knowing how to install it, how to deliver it, how to upload it, how to whatever it is, right? So you got widgets, you got software, you got all kinds of crazy things, pies, right? Um, so there's three parts of being an entrepreneur. You've got the technician role, you've got the managerial role, and then you've got the entrepreneurial role. And all three of those things are very difficult to do all at the same time. So understanding how to find people to help you do that is a big part of that.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me here today, man. You guys heard it from Matt himself. You got to have those KPIs and you have to have a strong vision. That's how you build a big team that is motivated and bought into the vision, and you're also tracking their performance to make sure that everybody's producing their fair share of revenue and you're not missing anything, nothing is slipping through the cracks. Thank you guys for joining us today, and I'll see you all in the next episode.